Teachers, what's the best thing a student has ever said? One year while teaching 8th grade, I had this really shy kid, along with one of those stereotypical mean girls in one of my classes. The girl would always be begging for attention, blurting out stuff like, "You're probably my second least favorite teacher," and would make fun of a lot of the other girls. It bothered me when she would make fun of the shy kid because he reminded me of myself. One day I was doing a group project and decided to pair the two, along with 2 other boys. After a while, I noticed that the girl wasn't doing any work and was just talking with the 2 guys, leaving all the work for the shy kid. I walked over and asked why he was doing all the work, and the mean girl told me he was hogging all the work and not letting them do any. I knew this wasn't true, so I said that they could just do the rest since he did most of it already. The girl said, "No, it's okay, he can do it, he's a nerd anyways," and got a laugh out of the boys. I then said to her, "You should be nice to him, he could be your boss one day." Just after this, with zero hesitation, the shy kid finally spoke. He said, "No thanks, I don't want to be a pimp when I grow up."
What's the biggest bullet you've ever dodged? I was happily married to my husband, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He had his bad days, but I believed we could get through it together. At least that's what I thought, until he started using steroids behind my back and started constantly having random outbursts. One night I told him I didn't want to have intercourse and he lashed out at me. He put his hands on me and I tried to run away, but he caught me. I was desperate not to wake our baby, and as my tears welled up, it took everything not to let myself scream as he continued to lay hands on me and yell. I froze in fear as he began to pull at my clothes, but that's when I mustered up all my courage to slap him in the face. It was then that a calm came over him, and he realized what he was doing. He backed off, but I didn't wait to see if this would last. At that moment, I took my baby out of the crib, threw whatever I could into a bag, and left without looking back. I called my parents while my hands were still shaking, and they sent money to fly me home to stay with them. The next morning, I left the whole life I built up behind me, and no part of me regrets that decision. He remarried 10 years later, and recently was convicted for unaliving his new wife after they got into an argument.
When did you fail successfully? In my 3rd year of college, I was given an assignment worth 50% of my grade. Like usual, I waited until the last minute to work on it. But that's when I got a text from my friends telling me they were headed to a huge party and the girl I liked was going. I thought about it and decided I'd just go for an hour. Well, 5 hours later, and I am in no state to think clearly, or even walk for that matter. My crush ended up inviting me back to her dorm, and I completely lost track of time. I was laying unclothed in her bed staring at the ceiling when it hit me. I had done absolutely no work on my paper that was due in 8 hours. I panicked, and that's when I decided to email my teacher. Through my drunken state, I somehow sent a very well-worded, respectful email to my professor asking for an extension. The next morning, I woke up to check if he had responded, and that's when I read my email. At the time, what I thought was a heartfelt plea for an extension turned out to be me telling him I was sorry he was bald and offered to help him get hair implants. Then I added that I need an extension because I was so drunk. I could barely bring myself to read his response as I thought I was doomed, but to my surprise, he gave it to me. Here is a screenshot.